Something our brains naturally try to ignore is the fact that we only control a very small portion of the thoughts that enter it. We're only aware of a fraction of a fraction. Slips of the tongue, accidental actions, and blinded decision-making offer glimpses into our unfiltered subconscious, our programming, if you will. A competitive Smash player decides to swing at an opponent when they come into the move's range, and can delineate the boundaries of said range. But when the opponent comes dashing through, unconscious mental functions take over. The actions required to perfectly time the hit and follow up with a combo are too complex and unfold too quickly for our comparatively slow conscious control to handle. Your subconscious self knows what it wants, just as much as you know what you want. But which one is you? Where does your identity lie? The discussion around free will often surrounds itself with the thoughts that we have control over. But it's always been hotly debated in philosophy whether or not we have true control over those either. And just how many of those subconscious thoughts creep into our everyday decisions anyway? Deep questions I didn't think I'd have to ask myself while playing a game about that talking blue hedgehog back there. But enter E-102 Gamma, a character who makes you ask those exact things. Hey, you look nice today. When I first played Sonic Adventure as a kid, I didn't quite get it. I mean, I played Gamma's story and got to the end of it, sure. I understood that Gamma dying at the end was sad, and that it was his mission to free the other birds from their robot shells, but I didn't get it. At least not the significance or deeper themes of what the story was trying to say. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I personally enjoy when a story has layers to unpeel, things to uncover when you mature later in life. Coming back to play this game after the podcast we did, I came to appreciate this part more than I could have ever anticipated. Let's talk about why this bot won my heart, and how the story has something to teach each and every one of us. That being, it's not always up to our programming to decide what's right. But first, what do you call a robot who likes to row? A robot! Please subscribe. Let's start from the top. The very first thing Gamma's senses pick up is his creator, Dr. Eggman, who tells Gamma what he is and what he expects from him, which doesn't seem to be much at first, but that's just Eggman trying to pit his creations against each other so they perform better. Specifically, Eggman goes out of his way to say he doesn't expect Gamma to do as well as his elder brother, E-101 Beta, the first of the E-Series robots other than this guy, who's much different. After Gamma goes through his training protocol and passes with flying colors, he's told to fight his brother Beta to decide who the better robot between the two of them are. A selection test, one that he expects Beta to win, and the winner will be accepted as the Egg Carrier's boarding crew. However, when Gamma comes out on top, Eggman says he knew he could do it from the start. How do you think that made Beta feel? And yes, I said feel. These robots have some sort of baseline capability to experience emotions. Just look at how Beta reacts to these words, standing in front of Eggman and wanting to board too. He wants to do a good job. And Eggman begrudgingly allows it, just saying he'll make use of him somehow. What a gross tone. I don't know if Eggman knows his creations have the ability to feel, but something tells me he does. Maybe it didn't happen before, maybe it did. Look at Metal Sonic. This series of robots may be new, but it's not as if Eggman doesn't know the inner workings of his technology. He's not written to be dumb, at least not yet. And the way he talks to them is just downright disgusting and manipulative. I don't think it's for nothing. Keep this in mind as we continue. The first mission aboard the Egg Carrier is to retrieve a frog with an abnormally long tail. As he enters the room, he hears the other robots bickering with one another about which one of them did the best job. And yes, I said robots. Remember that whole selection test? Yeah. Seems like that was just made up for the sake of having them compete with one another. In reality, he was gonna let them all on anyway, as there are another 3 E-Series robots here, all trying to do their best. Gamma is the one to find it though, and is praised by Eggman for being the only one to do it. It's really cute that you can see Gamma express his joy by shaking. Even if the presentation of the game wasn't great, it's still nice to see little things like that. It really helps the storytelling. Sadly though, Eggman fires all of his siblings and transports them all over the place after scolding them for not finding the right frog. Before E-103 vanishes, he looks at Gamma. Such a small detail, but one that gives such an enormous amount of emotional information. It's as if he's calling out for help. He's confused. There's a deep sense of sadness here, and it's conveyed with no words at all. The lack of empathy Eggman has for his creations is disgusting, but it does make me appreciate him as a villain a lot more through this lens. I mean, there was only one right frog, and he sent out 4 of them, knowing only one would succeed. I think Gamma is beginning to understand this as well. At least, maybe a part of him is. All this while Gamma's theme plays, with such lyrics as, "It's my pleasure, ready to die, and get emerald." Here, listen closely. I interpret this as Eggman's voice constantly playing in his head, reminding him of his programming. But before he can catch a break, he's already on to his next mission, to snatch a birdie from a girl kept inside their prison. On the way to the door, though, there's a bit of a malfunction. The spinning floor panel, which is there for, why is that there exactly? Well, regardless, it spins as Gamma is running along it to go to the prison door, and he ends up seeing something he did not want to see. Gamma really is stunned and confused over what's happening to his brother. His old parts lie lifeless on the ground, and his new body being manipulated and transformed by Eggman's machines. Dismantled for the sake of being the best there is. It's all he knows. That's what he was born into. All Gamma can do is watch. It's not in his programming to interfere, even if there's a part of them that's boiling underneath the surface that would love to do nothing else but to stop this. All he can say is he went into the wrong room and continues onto the mission that was assigned to him. But this mission may change his life forever. It's Amy. She refuses to hand the bird over to Gamma, just absolutely refuses. She says that if you had any sympathy for this bird at all, you'd help let them out. But for some reason, this trips up Gamma's programming and forces him to ask why she would go out of her way to help a complete stranger. With a stroke of bravery, the bird then flies up to Gamma and looks deep into his eyes, which then furthers his short-circuiting episode. Once it comes to an end, Gamma lets them out and tells them to get to safety. And Amy says if he's truly not evil, then the next time they meet, it'll be as friends. And she kept her word, because when Eggman called him for his next order, it was to blast Sonic away. Or Sonic blast Sonic away. Or Sonic 3D blast Sonic away. But right before they could put each other down, Amy gets in the way. She pleads with Sonic and Gamma, first telling Sonic that this robot is a friend, and that he helped her and Birdie escape, and then telling Gamma that he doesn't need to follow Eggman's orders, that isn't who he is. Gamma complies, and she tells them that it isn't safe here and they need to get off the egg carrier too, as it's losing altitude. Again, he's confused on why she would go out of her way to help him, but she responds with what she said to him earlier. The next time they meet, it'll be as friends. And so, Gamma activates his jet booster and propeller and flies off the ship, left to contemplate everything that's happened up until now on his way to the ground. Memories from Gamma's life flash before his eyes. First, his brother Beta, then his other siblings being disregarded and thrown away, then Amy helping him, and finally, Eggman. The images flash faster and more intensely as time goes on. He remembers the compassion Amy showed him in the bird, and the cruelty shown to his siblings by their own master Eggman. He sees what it looks like when other people care for each other, and saw what it looked like to throw people to the curb. His master leaving him alone on the egg carrier on its violent descent. He's been transported to the past just to see an ancient being taking care of the Chow, and has listened to Tikal talk about how cruel her father has been after closing off his heart. That he plans on taking away the last place these innocent creatures can play, subconsciously building on his understanding of empathy. He begins to question whether the orders he's been given since awakening are to be followed, if they're the right decisions to make, if he would be better off free. A final solution to this complex equation has been found. He erases Dr. Eggman from Master status, and deems the other E-Series robots as his friend, and that it's his new mission to save them. They were teleported all over the area for being useless to their creator, so we'll have to use his scanners to locate them. No problem. Let's just make our way through Windy Valley and... save them. Gamma internally understands that in order for them to be free, he must destroy them and release the animal kept captive inside of them. He's likely able to understand this intuitively because of his own systems, along with observing Eggman's work, but didn't see it as freeing them before because the only sense of self he had was tied to obeying orders. Sense of self. Speaking of which, why is this the first and only mission Gamma gives himself after being freed from Eggman's shackles? Was this what was boiling underneath the surface the whole time? Not consciously, but subconsciously. When released from his tight programming, something else took over. Something that was there all along. The culmination of everything he's experienced before. The animal inside. See, our subconscious remembers an enormous amount of information, things that our conscious brain cannot recall. We store so much data in there that we don't know what to do with it. We'd be overloaded, but it's kept safe until it's needed, until instinct takes over. Just like the competitive Smash player swinging at the opponent when they come into range. Just how many of these subconscious thoughts creep into our everyday decision making anyway? Remember? That's exactly what's happening. And maybe even what just happened to you. When we clean our disks of a programmed behavior, something deeper takes over. But why this exact thing? Well, let's keep going and find out. Through Red Mountain, Hot Shelter, and finally, to find his brother Beta, Eggman, their father, codes their brains with their environment and conditions their behavior. Like lost children rejected by their parents, they still want to prove themselves worthy of love and attention by whatever means, even if they don't fully understand. Through Gamma's mission, we're able to see the augmentations the E-Series put themselves through, still following their programming, still wanting to prove themselves long after being exiled by their creator. It's no coincidence that Omega, the final E-Series robot who was introduced to us in Sonic Heroes, had that same drive to be the most powerful Eggman creation there is, and to take down anyone who stood in opposition to that. Aboard the egg carrier, he scans one last time for his siblings. He recalls where Beta is, but then something interesting happens. He looks at his hand. It's him. He's the final E-Series robot, which must mean... But before he can process that data, he sees the new and improved version of Beta flying toward the center of the egg carrier and follows him there. He must complete his mission. It was a hard-fought battle, the hardest of his life, maybe other than Sonic himself. Beta pulled out all the stops in order to get the upper hand, but at the end of the day, Gamma just could not give up. It was that determination to free his siblings that led to his victory. And with that, his mission is complete. After defeating Beta, he goes in either to check on him or finish his mission. You could interpret this as Beta being stubborn until the very end, finally getting a one-up on his brother. Or you could interpret it as him also becoming his own master and understanding that in order for Gamma to be free, he would have to be destroyed as well. I'm not sure which one I prefer, but I don't see him as an evil entity either way. Just an unfortunate and tragic one. One who wanted to be the best, just like he was taught, just like he was programmed from the very beginning. This stands in stark contrast with Gamma, and is what makes Beta so suitable for the final battle from a narrative standpoint. The animal within Beta has been freed, and the very first action it makes is flying right in front of Gamma, looking into his eyes, as Amy's bird from before did. A knowing stare. One that tells Gamma it's okay to let go now, and that he did everything he could. One that reaches the core of Gamma. An image flashes before his eyes. It's a family of birds. One yellow bird, the one he just freed from Beta. One baby blue bird, the one he helped rescue with Amy. And a pink bird we haven't seen before. Something clicks inside of him. It's time. The pink bird. It was Gamma. With no more words, Gamma falls, understanding finally who he is, and why he was doing what he was doing. To be free with his family. This ending scene always gets me, man. It's good. I love this story. It might actually be my favorite one in the series. It gives context for every single animal we've ever freed in prior and later games. Like in SA2, when Eggman makes Gamma replicas, you can look at it like each one of those robots having the same capability for compassion as the original did. And that's beautiful. The same capability to awaken and do good. to change. But equally, it is sad to see all of these E-series robots be destroyed when they had that capability. Sometimes, though, it's better to look at the full picture. It just wouldn't be right to let those poor animals stay stuck inside their robot shells. They didn't consent to that level of cognitive dissonance and existentialism. That's just an extension of Eggman's cruelty. And Gamma freed them of that realization. He was a hero, even if nobody saw it. At the end of the day, my goal with writing about this was to show you that everyone has the capacity to change and do good, to awaken that part of themselves, to learn new things, to break away from their programming, but to show that sometimes there are things we have no control over at all. Things that are deep within ourselves, guiding us to wherever it wants to go. Our genetics, subconsciousness, and the needs we have as a species. All things our brains try to fool us with illusions to forget. It aims to keep us in homeostasis, to make the things in front of us easier to comprehend, and because it's uncomfortable to be afraid. We set goals to create our best possible lives, but can only perceive what is known, and aren't psychologically able to predict what will make us happy. It's not as simple as knowing what you want and going after it, no matter how much we do it anyway, or how much we think we might know. There is usually a reason why we do the things that we do, but we just might not always understand it, and that's okay. It's okay that we don't have control over every little thing that happens in our lives, you know? Perspective is everything. You can change your attitude toward things that fall out of our control. You can loosen your grip. You should always strive to do your best, but it's okay to let go. And a huge shout out to all my wonderful patrons. If you'd like to see videos early, or get exclusive content like video breakdowns, then I highly recommend joining. And I'm working on a ton of Sonic character analysis videos, so make sure you subscribe too. For now, why not check out some of the videos I've done on the DDLC characters? It turns out they're a lot more interesting than you may think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.